Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I'm Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. On today's show, we'll preview the NFL's divisional round of the playoffs, where the Chiefs will finally get to play all of their players again. We, quite some time since we've seen most of them. We'll talk about the college football playoff, getting ready for the national championship game. Uh, Coaching carousel in the NFL briefly. But we'll lead today's game or today's show with the NFL's wild card round. Mike, the home teams ended up doing very well, and that's only one road team won. Also, the unders did really well in this first week. 5 of 6 unders were correct, which was one of our strategies for a lot of games here in the last of everything that you saw in the opening round of the NFL playoffs. What intrigued you the most?
Well, I guess what intrigued me in some ways was how maybe, except for one game, how fairly predictable you could say it was. I guess the Washington Tampa Bay game was maybe we thought would go the other way, but that was a close game. It could have easily have gone Tampa's way, I think, in that one. Tampa was, I think, probably
Yeah.
should have won. They had a couple of that weird, Baker Mayfield fumbles and weird things happened in the fourth quarter that kind of cost them. But
A doink field goal too.
doink field goal. Um, and yeah, the Commanders had doink field that went in. But strangely, nobody acted as though that was super lucky. Unlike the Chiefs' doink field goal that went in, that was
Right.
seen a symptom of the Chiefs' fraudulence or luck when they won, but it was I don't know, it just seems shows goes to show, I think, the attitudes that are different. I think people are right now seeing the Commanders as young and exciting, and a lot of national pundits and fans see the Chiefs as boring and old news, and maybe something that needs to go away. Of course, we at the Warjack Power do not feel that way, but
Not at all.
it's the Chiefs are becoming the Patriots of this decade. It seems like so. In terms of garnering the ire of opposing fans and winning so much. It seems like without the cheating scandals that New England had.
Right. Thankfully, no one's filming other teams' practices or deflating balls or anything. Right. Yes.
Yeah, so at least they haven't determined that haven't that hasn't come out yet. At least hopefully it won't.
That
But
was that was a little later in the Patriots dominant era, though, I think, wasn't it?
yeah, it was kind of in between their two Super Bowl runs. They had the three early and then the three late in Brady's career. And then kind of in the middle, I think, was when they had the Spygate and the Deflategate and stuff like that, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. Um, but yeah, well, now Bill Belichick has gone to coach the University of North Carolina, at least for now. She do you want to talk a little about the coaching carousel first before since we're talking about Belichick? Do you think
We can, yeah, sure.
I was wondering if you thought maybe Belichick might leave college and coach one of these teams that has an opening? I think I guess because there were six openings. Mike Vrabel has taken the Patriots job, but now there are six openings again because Mike McCarthy has left the Dallas Cowboys because of, I don't know, reasons. Uh,
Probably contract reasons, but
Yeah, it seemed like Dallas was trying to keep McCarthy because they kept him from interviewing with the Bears, but maybe the Bears are going to ask to interview him now.
yeah.
Um, and it seems like, well, if you were the Dallas Cowboys, would you try to get Bill Belichick as your coach, or if you're maybe Tom Brady, the owner of the Raiders, would he go to coach uh, the Raiders? Would he? Do you, maybe I guess the odds would. What do you think the odds are that Belichick leaves and goes to coach one of these opening teams with job openings.
Well, he's sort of done this once before, right? Wasn't he signed to coach the Giants?
He was the Jets head coach very briefly,
Jets? Yeah.
uh, or he
Jets.
was
It was the Jets.
picked to be the Jets coach, and then like right before his press conference, I think he took the New England job. So I think he took the Jets job after Bill Parcells retired from the Jets, I think, or something like that, and I think that's what happened. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's possible, I guess, that he would leave. I think he has a $10 million buyout, so that's not a it's a lot of money, but it's maybe not a ton of money for an NFL franchise to spend. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, what do you think the odds are? Would you say it's 10-1? Would you if what
To go
would
to any other job
yeah
or
go to
or
any
just
of
that you think
to
you think
go
it'll
to NFL jobs?
yeah. Well, I think of the NFL jobs, I think I would guess he's probably more likely to go to the Raiders than Dallas, but I don't think the odds are great. Yeah, so maybe 10-1 is probably like, the softer side of what to expect. But of the two though, I would guess it's probably more likely to be the Raiders than Dallas. Do you think he wants to go coach for another sort of tyrant type owner? I guess
Well,
they're
I
both sort of tyrants.
Mark Davis is not. Yeah, well, if it was Al Davis, he'd be more the tyrant. I don't know if Mark
Yeah,
Davis is just known for his bad haircut, basically. I
yes.
think.
That
Um,
is that is the best look anyway for if you're like looking up Mark Davis, I think Mark Davis haircut shows up as one of the
yeah,
top autofill options.
yeah. I would. Well, Bill Parcells went to work for the Cowboys at the end of his career, and Bill Belichick was a Parcells uh, assistant and disciple, I guess. So maybe you could see him going. Although I've also heard Deion Sanders is a possibility for the Dallas Cowboys, which I would think would be an absolute disaster as a head coach in the NFL because I don't think Sanders is known for his game planning or strategy. I don't know. I see in some ways I would see it like if I see Dion as a lot like Ricky Henderson type, the recently deceased Ricky Henderson, like somebody who's extremely talented, but also kind of extremely self-centered and like maybe doesn't. I don't know how well he. Maybe this is just me my bias against both of them, but they don't seem like guys that kind of exist out of their own heads very well, and would be able to. Um, outthink and as for themselves again, they were very clever players, but like and things like that. But I think in order to translate that into success for others that they're telling what to do, I don't know if great
Yeah,
play. Usually, a great player does not make a great manager or coach. It's an average player that knows what to do, but didn't have quite the talent or ability maybe to do all the things that they wanted to do, but they could see and
right.
understand why it happened, maybe are the best. Because most of the, NFL coaches, if they were players, they were decent players. They aren't, you know, Hall of
Yeah,
Fame players.
but they also didn't maybe make nearly as much money either, so they might
Yeah,
want to be working later
yeah,
uh,
that's true.
into their years at least as a job a haver, I guess, as opposed to somebody who just has a lot of money, doesn't have to work necessarily.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe the most successful player as head coach in the NFL maybe is Mike Ditka, who was the Hall of Fame tight end when he played. I don't know if
Yeah, but that was
I
also
don't
from an era where the player salaries weren't
much
nearly
lower.
the numbers that they reach today. So it would maybe salary wise, it probably was worth it for him to continue working
Yeah,
based on what he made as an NFL player, even though he was a Hall of Famer.
yeah. It was hard to say how good a coach really. He was the coach of some very good teams, but I don't know how
Yeah,
he was as a personally as a coach. He didn't do very well in New Orleans. He famously traded all of his draft picks for Ricky Williams uh, to pick number like all 7 rounds. I think he only picked Ricky Williams as number 1 overall. Uh, and that didn't last very well or didn't do very well. But so
Yeah.
I guess I see Sanders as if college it sort of works because he can recruit because he's a big talent. He can recruit the best.
Well, and
So
personality too, right? So that helps with recruiting for sure.
yeah, and it's basically that's all you do as a college coach, or at least a lot of what you do as a college coach is try
Yeah.
to get players than the other teams have. In the NFL, it's hard to get better players than the other teams have. Um,
But I think a lot of it too is dependent on your coordinators. If they have really talented coordinators, then maybe you're more or less delegating, control of the offense, control of the defense to, your right and left hand
yeah,
coaching staff. So you don't really necessarily have to be a mastermind at one or the other as long as you have the right team, to
yeah,
lead on the day. So, if they pair them with the right, group, then, it's probably fine. You can just have a personality type,
yeah.
being at the top of the program. But depends on what you want to do.
But are there any like really successful NFL coaches that are just personalities rather than
I
experts
don't
at
think so. That's what
strategy?
we're
Like
saying.
Andy,
In general, that is a strategy that you could use, but you'd have to make, three good hires, not just one good hire. 'Cause if you
yeah,
get one good head coach, they will fill the other roles
yeah,
with competent personnel below them because they know exactly what they need and want.
if anything, it
So
seems like attitude guys are tough guys who have attitude rather than
right.
flashy attitude guys. Like maybe the flashiest and successful attitude guy in the NFL might be like, I don't know, Sirianni maybe. He's not, I don't know if he's known for he was offensive coordinator, he was an offensive guy, but like I don't know, he's not
Yeah.
really, but he's not been known to hire like big name coordinators, and his coordinators have gone on to head coaching success. Uh,
Yeah.
or have had head coaching success. Like I think his offensive coordinator is Kellen Moore, who's also been named as a possibility for the Cowboys job. He's Vic Fangio, former NFL head coach, as well as the defensive coordinator. Like, but he's sort of like in some ways he's kind of a lightning rod for criticism, and you know he yells at fans. Like he's not the you know John Harbaugh, Jim Harbaugh, tough guy kind of coach, or Dan Campbell, tough guy. I don't know. Those seem
Yeah.
like even if they're not, or I don't know because it seems like most of the good coaches were good coordinators on the NFL level at one
Yeah.
point, or
But the attitude that you're talking about, yeah, those are like the hard-nosed defensive
yeah,
type guys too. Yeah. As
and
opposed
it's
to like, I mean, I guess Dion wasn't, I mean, he was both a defensive and an offensive player though.
yeah,
So
he was, but he was not. He was one of the guys as well who was not known for his tackling ability. He was a
he was a
flashy
ball hawk
player, a
type.
big
Yeah.
flash maker, like on every. He was special. He was a good special teams player as well. He's a good returner, but
Right.
like he was not fundamentally sound. I would say in his play. Like, when he carried the ball, he did not hold it in the way that you would want somebody to hold it if you did not want them to fumble the football. He would have the ball like out and around. Like, he was, he was. When you're somebody as good as Dion, you can do that. But when you're not, like, but 99% of the players are not going to be as good as Dion, so they won't be able to, you know, do that. So like, and it's how is he going to maybe because most of the players are going to be rank and file NFL players. How is he going to instill like technique and detail oriented kind of things that would maximize the kind of average guy's potential rather than maybe he's good with superstars, but you can't just recruit a team of superstars to the NFL like you can in college. And um
Doesn't that seem like a Dallas Cowboys kind of style as to what they
Yeah,
might
it does.
do?
It's very Dallas. It's also very Raiders, I think in some ways.
Yeah.
Um, I think Deion has been, Las Vegas has been maybe um, mentioned as well, but uh, I wouldn't, I don't know. Would you be more surprised if Deion Sanders became an NFL coach or if Bill Belichick went back to the NFL? I mean, that's the question.
Hmm. Well, I believe Deion Sanders did say that he would only like to play or coach in the NFL if his sons are there though too. So like he's talking about maybe coaching going where his sons might end up, that kind of
Well,
thing too.
that's
So I don't know. That
that's
seems
one of the
unlikely to be like like a good way to bet on something anyway. But I would still see Dion probably as more likely immediately. I don't know, but I'm not sure though.
yeah, I don't because it would also like be like if he would had to follow his sons, he would have to wait till the draft was over. Uh,
Right.
Shador Sanders, he will probably be drafted in the first round, but he's not going to be the number one overall pick most likely.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess if you went somewhere, if he's getting a late round pick somewhere, he might be able to use on one of his own children, I suppose, if
yeah,
they're available in the same draft. And like there's a lot more factors that you don't really have control over.
yeah, it's what yeah, I would think I would I don't I guess I just don't think of that highly of Dion's coaching ability. I think of him as a somebody who could maybe I'm just thinking stereotypically or being just wrong, but I think of him as somebody who just attracts certain types of players and maybe attracts certain types of coaches as well, who can do maybe that's what you want. Maybe, again, like you said, maybe he just needs to attract coordinators.
Yeah.
Um, but
It's
I
a
don't know.
strategy, at least anyway. It could work, but
Could
it's
work.
not really something that is done in the NFL, though.
No, because I think they think you have an advantage if your co head coach is also somebody who's good at whatever uh, one side, at least one side of the ball does. It's an advantage, I think, to have, even if you
But that's one of the
have.
things I always thought was weird, though, too. It's like, then why bother even having that coordinator if, say, like Andy Reid's going to call the plays anyway? Why do you even need an offensive coordinator? Because he's basically doing the job anyway.
I guess you still have to have them oversee, practice and in certain parts. There's a lot of
He's
administrative
some kind of
stuff
assistant that does that, though. It doesn't
coaches
need to
need
be
to do. I guess you don't have to
the
call them
title of the offensive coordinator. Just stay
coordinator.
with the head coach. Who cares?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just that's just how it is. There's a you have a defensive coordinator, an offensive coordinator, special teams coach, and then
Yeah. I just think it's odd that they keep the title there, even though like, the head coach is really doing at least part of the
yeah.
job of one of the coordinators then. So I think maybe it should
Well,
actually be more like what we're talking about here with Dion having more of a figurehead type with two competent coaches right below him. And then he's not, dipping into either of their job descriptions, basically. So like it probably actually shows off their talents more, and he's there more as a
yeah.
figurehead.
Well, the question is, why can't you get two competent coordinators plus a coach that knows one side of the ball, or
Then
well, like
you're already
if
complicating
you
it then because you've got maybe two people
well,
that are
if
going to
you want,
compete for one of those sides of the ball that maybe having
I think
conflicting ideas.
well, maybe that could also, two smart people is maybe better than one smart person. In some ways too. There's the too many cooks spoil the broth kind of
Yes.
philosophy. But there's also the idea, well, we have a Manhattan Project type of thing going on. We want as many smart guys in the room as we can, and if the head coach is just a figurehead, well, maybe that's not the way we want. It's sort of like what kind of maybe it is because we have inauguration day coming along. Maybe that's sort of like what you want in a president as well. Do you want somebody who is well versed in the nitty gritty, finer things of politics and policy, or do you just want somebody that can, kiss, shake hands and kiss babies, and christen ships and things like that, or go to state funerals and maybe make a good speech that somebody else wrote for him. Is that what you want out of a leader? who
Yes.
is is it a
Yes, it is,
figurehead?
Mike.
Well, I think that's what people thought. People, I think a lot of people who think they were, I guess, voting for President Trump would think of him as more because they don't think of him as an expert in politics. They think of him as I don't know what they think of him as. I guess they think of him as an expert in life of some sort. But
Business, sales, I don't know. Some
yeah,
effect.
he
A
runs the
deal
United States.
maker.
Yeah,
The art of the deal, Mike. I mean, that's like a thing
he
that he
did.
also did not write.
He did direct Kevin McAllister to the front desk in Home Alone 2, the hotel lobby, which he owned. So
Possibly the only successful thing he's really done in his life.
his appearance in Home Alone 2. Well, I guess you see, I'm listening to the NFL radio on Sirius XM satellite radio NFL channel, and every once in a while there's a commercial. We talked about the commercial for the Trump watches and Trump perfume. Now there is Trump sneakers you can also buy that commemorate the inauguration. So he's really selling a lot of things, and that's not really that's it's a little bit of I think the it's the sort of Deion Sanders approach, I think, for being a head coach. Uh, I I would say is what is inside, and a lot of people like that, I guess. But I think most of the NFL has gone to the more technocrat style of coaching, and maybe
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, at least you have somebody who knows the X's and O's really
But not
well.
even necessarily a player too. Like they may be like yeah, like game theory type experts, right?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
As in the technocrat, like you mentioned, though, right? So they,
yeah.
yeah,
I think, yeah, and so yeah, it's one of those things where I think that is, yeah, I think it adds an extra layer. I think of success to because you want yeah, as you want to be able to outthink and outperform the other side, and I don't, yeah, I that's where Belichick is that technocrat defensive mastermind, but he's also probably, has been around so long, he knows offense and stuff as well as, you know,
sure, of
uh,
course, yeah,
but so so if I were hiring a coach, I would hire a Belichick rather than a Dion.
yeah. But Dion has had success at Colorado. I mean,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
have done quite well since he's been there. The first year
he has,
was started out great and then faded quickly, and the second year was much
yeah.
better.
Well, he's able to bring in all the players he wants. It's one of those things. Also, the type of the college football playoff was, it's not the SEC that's dominated anymore. It's maybe more egalitarian because now maybe it's the idea that everybody's paying their players NIL money. It's the Big Ten schools that have more money than the
Than
SEC, or
SEC schools,
as much money as the SEC, and they can in some ways outcompete those teams. I don't know. It won't be a I don't know how it'll turn out, but back, I guess. So that's we talked a lot about the coaching carousel.
well,
Um,
maybe one more quick question though on the coaching care on the Belichick and Sanders story that you were just mentioning though. If they both stay in the college ranks, who do you think will get more wins next year?
it'll be Sanders without his kids.
Yeah,
I don't know who the quarterback is going to be for Colorado. Colorado, I guess both of those teams play in conferences that they aren't the Big Ten and they're not the SEC, so they're second tier Power Four.
yes,
At least they're perceived that way. Colorado, I think was they 10-2, and I think 6-6 or something like that was
I'm pretty sure 6 wins. Yeah, for North Carolina.
Carolina. I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say who's coming back and who's going to be brought in.
Right.
Uh,
But it's a flashy guy with a whole new team again, without his kids,
I
against
think
an incoming former NFL coach with a full staff. Maybe he
I
isn't necessarily the best recruiter, but he has his. He's everybody knows him. So
Yeah.
that will help
I
with
I
recruiting.
I would say this year for Colorado will be more like Deion's first year. They might have a good start, but it's like it's still a new team, and I don't know if he'd be able to build that much success without you could had travel. He had the Heisman Trophy winner as well on the team that was who played both receiver and defensive back, and Travis
Right.
Hunter, but he won't have that. So I think Colorado's losing maybe their top players.
Yeah.
So North Carolina's top players, maybe they're losing them, but I don't think their top players were obviously not quite as good as Colorado's top players. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna say I would say Belichick will win more games than Dion. That's my guess, but I don't know. I
Yeah.
I I could see Dion's team somehow going 3-10 or something like that, or I guess 2-10. Um,
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen, but I could see it more likely than Belichick's team going 2-10 in college. I don't know.
Yeah.
At least that's yeah. But maybe Belichick can't relate to the players in the same way that Dion can. He's
You
not
think that
going
he
to.
would make all the right decisions in the game scenarios, though, like that you expect.
Yeah, and
So,
his game plan you would think would be um above what anybody else would be able to do. Like even like college coaches that go to the NFL, they are not usually that successful. Um, at least they have if they don't have a lot of NFL experience. Like even Nick Saban he was decent at Miami, but not great. Um, but like Jim Harbaugh was pretty good at Michigan, but he was also successful in the NFL before he went to Michigan. And
right.
then um so yeah. I'm gonna guess What do you think? Do you think Belichick will win more games, or do you think Sanders will win more games?
Yeah, I think, like you said, yeah, Sanders is probably going to have the more variable year. Like we don't really know what he's going to do. But Belichick's already coming into like a 500-ish team. If they're at 500 or below, would be surprising. So like you'd expect him to have a winning record. I think at the end of the year. Sanders, I'm
Yeah.
not sure what's going to happen with that. So it could he could win 3 games or win 10 games. I don't. It could be basically anything. So it seems like you would bet on Belichick just because of that. Like you're pretty sure he's going to have an above 500 record.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, do you think maybe the question, maybe going back to the NFL head coaching, do you think this is the year where either Matt Nagy or Steve Spagnuolo will go and get an NFL job? Because Spags, we didn't quite mention too much last week because he hadn't been named as much as Nagy had, but he's apparently interviewed with Jacksonville. Maybe he's on Las Vegas's radar. Maybe is Spags likely? I think Nagy's probably less likely to go than Nagy was interviewed with the Jets at least, but right now
Yeah.
Nolo is the one who is the hotter commodity as a potential head coach. He would be somebody I think would fit well in Dallas, maybe. Um,
I don't know. It seems like defensive minded coach, like head coaches, I thought were going to be like basically the end of the list for like, I thought we'd already had our sort of our the end of the defensive coordinator becoming a head coach era. I thought we
well,
were done. And then it was going to be
yeah,
all offensive coaches everywhere around the whole league
I,
for like
I
a
think that's the
decade.
wise. I think that's the wise strategy because I think an offensive uh, I think offense is more important in today's game than defense is. Although defense is important, but
Yeah.
uh, I think though the success that um like this Dan Quinn when he went to the Commanders has had turning that team around. Uh, what was Dan Campbell's background? Yeah, I think he's a defensive guy, wasn't he?
I think so. But I don't
For
remember where he came from before.
um, Mike Vrabel's was a defensive player. Who
Yeah.
could Tennessee. I think that kind of retread defensive coach, maybe not retread, but middle-aged defensive coach has become because of a couple teams' success more recently.
Yeah.
Uh, young
I'm just
offensive
saying
people.
I find it a little surprising that so many defensive coordinators are not just talking about, getting jobs, but actually are getting
Yeah.
interviews and hired too. So
I
I
think
just find it surprising. I thought we were done with this era, but
yeah, I think people are going to go back to Brian Flores again.
yeah.
Uh, you know,
I mean, I would be less surprised if Spags decided he wasn't going to go anywhere else, but was, named as being the, line of succession should Andy Reid decide to retire.
well, Campbell was a tight end. He was a tight end. He was offensive.
Oh, so he was an offensive player.
He was the tight ends. He's only ever served as tight ends coach as a position coach. He's never been the offensive coordinator
Okay,
or uh, defensive coordinator. Um, yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I expected to see for like the defensive coordinator becoming a head coach would be sort of like a, you know, taking over for a retiring head coach scenario would
Yeah.
be about the only way defensive coordinators would end up being named head coaches, going
Mhm.
forward. So like
And
I'm
I
a
think
little surprised that, that coordinators have left Kansas City knowing that, Reed will eventually retire and someone would want that would be a very, lucrative job to be following Andy Reid if they keep the program, as close to the same as they can. So I kind of expected to see, a coordinator sticking around in Kansas City and not looking to get jobs outside.
well, I guess
So I'm,
Spagnuolo is almost the same age as Andy Reid is. Maybe I don't know if he's as old, maybe older than.
that's possible. That's it.
I'm
But
not
yeah, but
sure.
he had a not great coaching experience though, right? At the
Yeah.
head coach level.
But sometimes that first time, like Bill Belichick in Cleveland did not have a very good one. So
Well,
Spags is 65. Andy Reid, I think, is 60. He's 1 year older.
yeah,
A year and a half older. He's 66. He'll be 67 in March. So they're about the
that
same
half
age.
year is important.
Yeah. Um, so it's yeah, I don't know. I guess if I were hiring a coach, I would pick offensive, but I think the trend seems to be more defensive right now.
Yeah.
Uh as and you know, it seems like the idea is well, we need to stop those big offenses maybe rather than become one of those big offenses. It seems like it just sort of goes back. It's a little bit like a um metronome or the pendulum on a clock or something.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So um, anyway, any other coaching stuff we should want to talk about the games themselves? We really took a
Sure.
little take. Um, so the biggest, I guess, the first. So we talked about this, the AFC games were all played before the NFC games were played. So Saturday, the two games on Saturday and the early game on Sunday were both AFC contest. Were all AFC contests. And then the two late games Sunday and the Monday night game were all NFC contests. Um, I think maybe was the most surprising. I think the first game was the most surprising to both of us. We thought the Chargers would win against the Texans, or at least if the Texans won, it was going to be a close game. This wasn't particularly close. It was a 32-12 victory. Justin Herbert threw four interceptions. Um, do you think that big victory by the Texans is that their last gasp, or is this signs of things to come? Are they suddenly who they were last year? Maybe a team on the rise, rather than maybe a team that was um, maybe missing key components this year and not nearly as, even though they had a similar record as the previous year, they were not nearly as good as they seemed in 2023. So, which Texans team do you think the Chiefs are going to get?
Well, I think I think a lot of what the difference was in the game were those interceptions, though. I mean, that directly led to at least one touchdown because there was a pick six in the game, and the game was only a 20-point difference, so that's a big swing there at least anyway. So it would have been a much closer game without one of the picks. Maybe two of the picks maybe would have been the other way even. So I
Yeah.
think this is more of just a factor of yeah, Herbert being inaccurate or unlucky, at least on the pick six play, because that was like a right through the hands scenario that we saw last year a few times with the Chiefs players. So as long as Mahomes doesn't do something like that, then I'm still not super worried yet, I guess, until we see like probably the first quarter. Then maybe we'll have to change that opinion. But going into the game, it seemed like maybe Houston was the best opponent that the Chiefs might get, to face though. Like that seemed to be like maybe that was who we actually wanted to get. But now that
Yeah.
they have played that one good game, like I have you changed your opinion on that? Like maybe you would have rather seen a division rival for a third time.
I I would have I guess I would have preferred the Steelers as my number one opponent, probably that the Chiefs would
Another
play.
option, an unmentioned option.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the Chiefs hate defeated the Steelers so handily in their lone meeting
Yes.
at Pittsburgh. You would think at Arrowhead. It was similar to a couple of years ago when the Chiefs really beat up on the Steelers at home, and then they played a couple of weeks later in the playoffs, and they really beat them up again. Um, when they won each game by like 42-7 or something. It was both of those games were big blowouts. And this game, and so I
Yeah.
would say the Steelers would have been that matchup probably. Um, the Texans, I think maybe were the second uh, best option. At least I thought going because I think the Chiefs and because in some ways the Chargers and Broncos are built especially to beat the Chiefs because they're divisional opponents.
Yeah.
The Texans are kind of meant to play in the NFC South, which is not very spectacular. And you want to
Mm.
win those division titles and eventually you want to win the playoffs. But I think also teams like the Bills and the Ravens have moved beyond just trying to win divisional championships and are still in some ways trying to beat the Chiefs to become the AFC champion. And so they're built in some ways that are meant to confound Kansas City. At least that's partly why they're, the teams that they are.
Yeah.
I in some way, so maybe that means that the Houston is the best remaining opponent. It's the same Final Four in the AFC as it was last year,
Yep.
when Houston was playing Baltimore and the Bills and Chiefs were playing in the divisional round.
Yeah.
So now it's just going to be Houston and the Chiefs and the Bills and Baltimore playing each other. So yeah, I guess I'm pleased that it was Houston, given the fact that the Steelers did not beat the Ravens.
Yeah.
Although I think in some ways you want the Ravens and Bills to play each other because you think that'll be a more physical matchup, and maybe the team coming out of that game will be a little bit banged up and tired, and um,
Had
they
had
will
to play an extra game and another competitive game. Yes.
they also will come off a shorter week because the Chiefs are playing the early game on Saturday, and the Bills Ravens was going to be the late game on Sunday. So they'll have a full day's rest advantage the Chiefs will have over their opponent.
That's
Uh,
true.
is usually a good thing. Um, so yeah, it's so maybe this is ideal. Because you're going to have to play you're likely going to have to play one of the you Bills or Ravens anyway. So you might as well play them after they play
Yes.
each other and warn each other out.
Right.
At least we hope that's the case. It's not a cakewalk for either one of those teams. At least if you're a Chiefs fan, you don't want that to be.
Well, one of the teams can win handily as long as they come out of it, depleted in some way, right? Yeah.
Yes, as long as Josh Allen sprains his shoulder, throwing his eighth touchdown pass of the game, uh, or Lamar Jackson while he's
Scoring his fifth rushing touchdown.
pulls his hamstring, yes, as he's diving into the end zone for the fifth time. But
Right.
and Derrick Henry is slowed by a gimpy ankle or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Um, but yeah, I think this is the best case scenario for the Chiefs. They did see the Texans a couple weeks ago. that was when that, and they won that game, and they won that game kind of going away. That was although Tank Dell was injured in the middle of the game, and he that didn't turn out very well for the Texans, but he's not going to be he's out for the
Yeah.
season, so he won't be playing. So the Texans are down some of their best offensive weapons. The Chiefs are getting some of their best players healthy and back. And Rasheed Rice is still going to be out, but Hollywood Brown has become more of a factor. You think DeAndre Hopkins is going to play more in the playoffs? Um, everybody seems to be getting healthier. Jalen Watson on the defensive end may actually see some action. It's hard to say. Coming off his broken ankle, so
Yeah.
uh, I guess we're kind of talking about the divisional round now, but.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think maybe the Texans did play their best game of the season. Sometimes that doesn't mean that just because you play one good game doesn't mean you're going to continue it and play a really good game. At least we kind of learned that in the betting categories. What happens in the previous week is kind of it's what happens in the previous week. It's not necessarily something you can build on or something that momentum will continue.
Yeah.
Does happen.
Although, yeah, although we did see that kind of on the negative side, like with the Bears during the season, they lost that
Yeah.
game on the Hail Mary to Washington, like out in the middle of the year. They didn't win a game again until the last game of the season
Yeah,
against
they
the
lost 10 straight or
Packers.
something. Yeah.
And then, but then we saw that with Minnesota, the last week of the season, playing that tough division rival game
Mhm.
against Detroit for the one seed, and then they got drummed out early in the playoffs. Then too, dropping to the five seed, and then getting
Mhm.
drubbed by the Rams. Mike, what do you think about that game?
Well, it's one of those things where Minnesota lost two games to two different teams. They lost to Detroit twice, and they lost to the Rams twice during the season. So
And
their
that's
their
it.
low their lone
Yeah,
regular season were at the Rams and uh, both games against Detroit, and then they lost at the Rams again, or sort of at the Rams in a close at a neutral venue, I guess, but closer to the Rams' home stadium than their own. But yeah, that was a game.
yes,
I thought the Rams were going to win that game because I think the Rams are a really good team, especially when they have all their players. When they have Nakua and Cooper Kupp both available for Stafford, and he's fairly healthy, and their defense is pretty good. So I I thought in
and
some
Kyron Williams too for running
yeah,
backs. So yeah,
yeah,
they're pretty solid
really good.
when they're all healthy. Yes.
Yeah, I think I think in some ways Minnesota, even with Darnold playing really well, I think they were kind of playing at their maximum level, and I don't think they have the gears maybe that again the Rams have also won a Super Bowl somewhat recently. They've experienced a lot of the players have st were a lot of the players aren't the same as they were on that Super Bowl winning team from a couple of years ago, but they're still
Yeah.
some still there. Um, I think the Minnesota, if when they're in the playoffs, they tend to fall apart in the playoffs, like they did a couple years ago against the Giants. So
Yeah.
it's yeah, and McVay is. I think Kevin O'Connell wasn't he a McVay assistant?
I'm not sure.
Um, I think he yeah he was the offensive coordinator for the Rams in 2020 and 2021. Um, so he was the offensive coordinator when the Rams won the Super Bowl that year. So so he was one of Sean McVay's old coordinators. So maybe again McVay is the master and he's the student still. They're about the same age, I think. They're both very young, way younger than we are. But yeah, I don't. It's one of those things. I thought maybe it would be a little more competitive than what it ended up being. And part of that was, did you see any of the game? Like there was a kind of iffy, uh, was a sack on really what would should have been a sack on Matthew Stafford, and he kind of flung the ball as he was being thrown to the ground, and the Vikings picked it up and returned it for a touchdown, or what they thought was going to be a touchdown, defensive touchdown, and that would have changed the whole game, but it was ruled an incomplete pass. because really that's what Stafford was doing, is kind of trying to flick the ball somewhere. But it was one of those things that you would say is against the spirit of, it wasn't like a pass. It was like he was being thrown around and then he kind of flung it as he was being thrown. And it could easily have been seen as a fumble, or at least probably should have been intentional grounding, but it wasn't ruled that either.
Oh
Um,
wow, yeah. Hmm.
but because Nakua wasn't that far away from what it ended up being, but it
Uh,
was that was the game that was the thing that really changed the game. It could have changed the game, I think. But after that, it was the Rams kind of all the way, and but yeah, and I think the Rams probably had get a little bit of motivation because of the wildfires in Los Angeles, maybe playing for something, a cause larger than themselves, maybe seeing themselves as that was that doing that or something like that. So
sure.
um, I think, yeah. So I would, yeah, that game that was more predictable for me, at least, than um, certainly than the Texans Chargers game. The other, I guess, unpredictable game sort of was one that maybe we thought would, who knows what would happen. I guess the Tampa Bay Washington game. Do you think Jaden Daniels will have enough magic to keep moving his team forward? They're playing against Detroit in the dome. So it's not going to be a cold weather game. So it's not like the magic can, is going to go away. They'll have to be a tough running football team. Washington, I think they can do a lot of the same stuff. Daniels played pretty well um, in the nice weather in Tampa. He's going to have nice weather again in Detroit, at least inside the dome.
Right.
Um, do you think Detroit is coming off a bye, but they're still very injured? I guess maybe David Montgomery might be back.
It sounds
Um,
like, yeah. Former
um,
Cyclone, Dave
yeah,
Montgomery.
yes. Um, I don't know. So, what did you think? What did you think of the Tampa Bay Washington game? Do you think that winner of that game, Washington, can go on? I think that was the first playoff win since 2005, if I'm correct. So it's been 20 years, 19 years. This
And I
was
think that, sorry, go-
we're still the 2024 season technically, even though we're in
right,
2020. So yeah,
right. But yeah, I mean, and Daniels is going against a tough record, I think, for rookie quarterbacks making their playoff debuts. Usually don't go very well, and so that's a big deal. I think so. He's like, defying logic, defying history, defying like the franchise history, at least of late. So I mean, nothing's out of the realm of possibility, really. But Detroit's still tough. They played Minnesota really tough that last week. I think the game's going to end up being close. I don't think it's going to be maybe quite a blowout anyway. That might be expected for like a first time playoff team, first time quarterback in the playoffs too. So what do you think about that one? Do you think it's going to be close? Do you think it's going to be a blowout? What's your leaning right now?
no, I we're I think the spread's like 9.5 points or something like that. So
Yeah, big
I
spread.
I could see it getting away from Washington if they don't play really well early, but I could see if they play well early, they could keep it close and maybe win. Um,
The season they've had a lot of comebacks though too, so that's another thing that they've sort of specialized in as
yeah,
the years gone on.
that's true. But I think at Detroit's gonna, um, gonna coming off a bye, so they had a little bit of rest. They've had some rest. Um, I don't. I think the Rams are more likely to upset the Eagles than uh, Washington is likely to upset the Lions, but
Yeah.
sometimes you never know what's going to happen. The Speaking of the Eagles, they beat Green Bay in a low scoring, hard fought contest, 22-10. Did we learn anything from the Green Bay Philadelphia matchup?
Well, I know when we had our episode the previous week, we weren't sure what the status of either of the quarterbacks would be. Well, they both did play, but yeah, it was a very low scoring game though. It was a little surprising that it was that low scoring.
Well, you
But,
wonder
but
if
Philly played well. Saquon played great, I guess, right? So yeah, so that was enough for Philly to get through without really being tested too much.
yeah, you wonder if Love was still feeling the effects of his
That
arm
hand
and
injury,
elbow, something, hand, ulnar
yeah,
nerve. Is that what it was? Something like because so
maybe, yeah.
couldn't grip the ball, I think, as tightly.
Yeah,
Hard to say. Um,
it was
I
one of those scenes in the previous week where he saw what Love and the backup QB in Green Bay both trying to warm up and trying to be able to stretch their hands and try to grip the football better because they both had arm injuries during that last game of the season. That's something that no fan wants to see, not just one, but both quarterbacks trying to you know be able to grip the football so that they can attempt to throw.
yeah.
That's a scary sight, right? As a fan.
Yes, yes. Have you seen the internet theory about Jordan Love playing during Toyotathon versus non-Toyotathon times? Toyotathon is the December end of the year sales event, of course, that Toyota runs. Um, but in times of Toyotathon, apparently Jordan Love is has passed for more than um, about 3,300 yards and a 26 to 2 touchdown interception ratio. During non-Toyotathon times, which is he's thrown for 3,800 yards or more yards, but I think there were a lot more games. 29
Sure.
touchdowns to 25 interceptions. So he throws many more interceptions than he does in Toyotathon time. So I guess the month of December and maybe the end of November is Toyotathon. Um, uh,
Is
and
this like trying to correlate which quarterback's performance to release of Call of Duty games,
yes,
stuff like that, right?
yeah.
Uh,
I don't know why they picked Toyotathon. They could have picked Happy
Not just the
Honda
holiday season, or yeah.
or the December to Remember sales event or whatever the different um, automakers they're trying to get the year end uh, cars out of the way. But yeah,
Yes.
but anyway, during those time periods, uh, uh, Jordan Love is maybe the best player in the NFL. But during those non-Toyotathon periods, he's only kind of average or maybe below average even in his powers. So this was one of the ones that was a little too late um, for him to take
Marathon
it.
is over, and so are the Green Bay Packers. So
Yeah.
is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I mean, it seems like this is like a marketing company's attempt to try to find their next spokesperson and sponsorship, you know, match. So somebody's trying to cash in on this, right? Isn't that?
Yeah, yeah, apparently. I don't know how it got started. I think it was a TikTok theory at one point that spread.
Oh,
Uh,
right.
um, but yeah, so maybe that was I think I would say it's probably coincidence, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know what kind of car Mr. Love drives, but
Or we'll be driving from now on. Now this
yeah,
link has been made.
yeah, he'll be driving a new Camry or a
Yes,
Land Cruiser or whatever. Yeah, but
definitely.
we haven't talked. I guess there's a couple games we haven't talked about. Those are the Bills, Broncos, and the Ravens, Steelers. Neither of those games were particularly close. Both of them were won by the teams that were favored to win.
Heavily.
Which were you more surprised? Did you think that either of those games was going to be close, or which one were you more surprised by? If you were surprised at either, I think you were. What you actually predicted both of those spreads
Not
correct.
not surprised, Mike. That's how I picked them. I don't
I
know. Are you
both
surprised? Because you did not pick either of them
I got
on the
both games
spread, so
fairly
you thought they would
close.
be close. Apparently.
Yeah, I thought I was hope maybe I was just hoping they would be close. Um, I thought that Denver could do maybe again. I was looking at last week's performance leaking over into the next week in the playoffs. That Denver coming off a big victory over the Kansas City JV team uh, was really playing well. It started out really well for Denver. They got 7 points very early in the game. Big Bo Nix touchdown pass. Then that was all they scored later. I guess they missed a field goal, but that was all they scored. 31-7 loss. The Steelers were kind of out of it from the beginning. They did kind of have some signs of life in the second half against the Ravens, but they weren't good enough to overcome their, I guess, mediocrity is the way the Steelers have finished the season. They started out 10-3, and then now they're, including the playoffs, 10-8. They lost on a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah.
So, um, and I think Baltimore rushed for 300 yards or something like that. The Bills rushed for a lot of yards against Denver too. So,
Mhm.
fortunately, the Chiefs, I guess, have a good rushing defense this year.
That's right.
Um, but
They're going to need it the next two
yeah,
weeks, so that's good.
Yeah. I guess I was disappointed maybe in the results. I was hoping at least for closer fought, harder fought games between those uh in those two games. But
And those
um
were the two biggest spreads, but they're also kind of the two teams that were probably that which I at least thought were the two that were most likely to run up the score. And one of them you tend to bet on running up the score in Baltimore, though. So that's I was a little surprised
I
you took the under this, but only because it was Pittsburgh. I'm sure that's
I took it
what
because it
ended
was
up being.
Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh sometimes has Baltimore's number and they can beat
It's true.
Baltimore. So I thought they would at least keep it close. Um, and They could have kept it a little closer, I think, here and there. But TJ Watt was kind of invisible. The defense was not uh, Pittsburgh-y in some ways. Pickens he had a big touchdown in the second half, but he wasn't
Yeah,
used a ton. I don't know. It just wasn't it. Maybe it just shows that Baltimore's a better team. I think.
yeah, must be. Yeah.
But yeah,
But there
we'll see.
was one more little coaching carousel sort of tidbit that came out this week. The teams apparently have considered talking about creating players to go after Mike Tomlin. Mike, you think that's likely to happen?
Well, I think in some ways Pittsburgh
Draft
is
picks, I guess.
tired of Mike Tomlin's successful but not overly successful seasons. He's making the playoffs. He has winning records. I think in his 16 or 17 seasons in Pittsburgh, he has not had a losing record,
Yeah,
which is incredible, especially given the fact that he doesn't hasn't had good quarterbacks the last maybe even the last couple of years of Roethlisberger's
right.
career, even.
Yeah,
And he had he won with Kenny Pickett as the starter. He won with Mason Rudolph as the primary starter. He's won now with Russell Wilson / Justin Fields. It's yeah, maybe it's a situation of he just needs a change of scenery, a little bit like Andy Reid maybe did. He was good for Philadelphia for so long, but couldn't get him over the hump, and maybe
yeah.
he'll do someplace else. I don't know if I would. I guess Tom. You think? I guess I think you think Tomlin's probably a very good head coach, but um, he's gotten a lot. And like it seems like a lot of the players that play in Pittsburgh do much better in Pittsburgh than they do outside of Pittsburgh. So maybe he can
Right.
get out of people. So maybe yeah, maybe you would trade some draft picks for him. I think who was the last coach that got traded? Do you know? There have been coaches who have been traded to other organizations.
Well, didn't the
Uh,
Chiefs have to give up a draft pick to get somebody in the past, wasn't it? Uh, maybe a couple of times actually.
well, Sean Payton got traded.
Yeah,
Bill Belichick has been traded, I guess, technically. John Gruden famously was
yeah.
Herm Edwards has been traded. So I guess the Chiefs, who did they give up a draft pick for? Was it for Reed?
I can't remember who it was now. I thought it happened like maybe once, maybe twice even. Uh, but I can't remember quite who it was.
He was Herm Edwards.
You said Herm Edwards in it was on your list, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Jets traded Edwards to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Changed for a fourth round draft pick, I think is what it says. Uh, the Jets used this selection to take Leon Washington. You might remember him, running back, return specialist. Um, he was a pretty good player for as a returner. But yeah, the Chiefs. So I guess they did trade for Herm Edwards. Herm was not as successful as Mike Tomlin has been, although Herm has maybe been more quotable than Mike Tomlin in his "you play to win the game" speech. Has Tomlin
Yes.
had any similar sound bites that are?
Oh, there are some pretty funny ones, but
Yeah.
most of them aren't repeatable on on television, I think. So I happened to see a reel on TikTok, I think, of five
Okay.
or six clips where he had said some pretty hilarious things in passing, like on his way into the locker room, somebody asked him a stupid question, and he'll just blurt out whatever is on top of his mind, and it's hilarious, but also very off-putting
Okay.
and somewhat demeaning, but funny though to
Yeah.
not be in the scenario, not being the person that he's you know directing the
Yeah.
comment towards.
Yeah, it's not the. Yeah, I guess none of his individual things have been gotten like the sort of playoffs kind of or
Right.
types of things that Herm Edwards got his play to win the game speech into. But
Play to win the game.
mhm.
They are who we thought they were.
Yeah,
They are who
yeah,
they thought we are.
yeah.
Well,
Um,
who was that?
that's was that Dennis Green?
That sounds right. Does that sound right? They are, and we let him get away with it. Something like that, right? Wasn't that what it was?
Yeah, yeah. They are what they thought. Yeah, they are who we thought they were. Dennis Green, 2006 against the Bears.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
when he was coaching for the Cardinals, Dennis Green. He also coached the Vikings. Uh, or I guess
But
probably
nothing
the
tops playoffs.
playoffs.
Playoffs?
Yeah,
That's
it's
come
up there.
back as an advertisement. Did you see that recently again?
Yeah.
No.
It's up there. It's up there with the Allen Iverson practice. Talk about practice, man. Practice.
Yes.
But yeah, Jim Mora was the playoffs guy. Jim Mora
Right.
Senior.
Right. Senior. Yes.
Uh,
But I almost
yeah,
hear the word playoffs that way
I didn't realize
because of how much it was that clip was played.
Jim Mora Senior is still alive. I thought he had died, but he's 80. He's 89.
Yeah.
I guess he's not Jim Mora Senior Jr. because it's Jim E. Mora was the dad, and Jim L. Mora is
Mm.
uh, he's actually the current coach at UConn right now.
Mm.
Falcons coach, former Seahawk, briefly the Seahawks coach, and he's UCLA coach, but now he is UConn's football head coach.
So will he be coaching against Belichick this year?
Well, UConn is, I believe, aren't they
Oh,
independent?
that's
They're
yeah,
independent.
that's right. They're not in the same conference, are they?
No,
No, so never mind. Scratch that question, Mike. That was dumb.
there's some. Well, there was some question that UConn might join the Big 12 because basketball they're in the Big East, but they don't have a football conference. So like the idea would be bringing them in for the basketball, but also they'd be a bigger football name and get farther East Coast stuff. It seems like they'd be a good fit for the Big 12
No,
if they want to expand even further. It seems like the team conferences are expanding more and more. So
infinitely
um,
expanding,
yeah. Um,
except for the Pac-12.
Yeah, I guess Big 12. This is back in September. It says UConn's Big 12 move has stalled. So That was back in September. Uh, so I guess there still is maybe, so I would say maybe the next Big 12 team will probably be UConn. Um, if UConn wants to leave the Big East in basketball. Um,
Yeah,
that would make the Big 12 easily probably the premier basketball conference if they added UConn.
it already is, but it would be even more so.
Yeah, like you can still say the ACC has a lot. It's Duke and Carolina and all those Syracuse and those
Yeah.
teams, but
But there were
but
what, four preseason top 10 Big 12 schools in
yeah,
basketball?
yeah, yeah. I got
There is a big
Houston.
matchup this week. KU's playing at Iowa State, number 9 versus number 3 Cyclones. Mike, you excited for that one? That'll be
Sure,
tomorrow
I
for
know.
us now, but it will be yesterday for us when this airs.
Ooh,
That
so I'm sure you are looking forward to. You want an Iowa State victory. Uh,
absolutely. I will either be elated or very sad.
you're
Uh,
sad.
when
Coach Bill Self gets to
in
you
the
again.
future or the past. Right.
Yes. Um, yeah. Who is your who's the current Iowa State head coach?
That is TJ Otzelberger.
That's right, TJ Otzelberger. Is he your favorite Iowa State coach, or who's your favorite historical Iowa State basketball coach?
Hmm. Well, I
Johnny Orr.
mean,
Let's go back to Johnny
it
Orr.
just, Johnny Orr sort of set the tone for all of the future Iowa State quarterbacks. But I know Hoiberg was probably one of the more fun coaches, at least, too, just because he had a history with Iowa State.
Hmm.
Grew up in Ames, played for Iowa State, went into the NBA for a while, was like an
Yeah,
assistant GM in the NBA, then came back to the coaching ranks and in college. So that was pretty cool. He got to come back to Iowa State as a coach too. So that was a lot of fun anyway.
Fred Hoiberg. He was the mayor.
That's right. We kind of overlook the Larry Eustacia era though because of the some of the scandal that came out from him. But Tim Floyd was pretty good too. So yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of pretty decent Iowa State basketball coaches.
Steve Prohm.
Steve Prohm, yeah, he was there for a while.
Uh, Wayne Morgan, Greg McDermott.
Yeah, McDermott was the other. He went to
He's Creighton now.
yeah Creighton. That's what it is. Like he's up in Nebraska area. Where is that? Yeah, it's Creighton. That's it. Yeah, that's right.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, Prohm I don't think wasn't so great. McDermott was pretty good. But yeah, Otzelberger's been great though. Like they've been top 10, you know, in that
Yeah.
area at least for the last couple seasons. So it's been really exciting to be an Iowa State basketball fan.
Yeah, Altenberger was the coach of UNLV before he went to Iowa State and South Dakota State before that. He's from Milwaukee. So he's fairly not too
He
far
was an
away from.
assistant in Ames before
Hmm.
that too. So
Yes, he
he
was.
was part of the program at Iowa State before. So I think that's why
Uh,
they went after him because they already knew and liked
2000
him.
2006, 2013.
So
Before that, he was the coach at Chipola College, which I guess is a uh, community college in Florida. And before that, he was the coach of Burlington, Wisconsin Catholic Central High School. I thought it was going to be Burlington, Iowa, but it's
oh,
Burlington. Wisconsin. Um,
didn't know
so
that one.
neither did I. I
I'm
just read
not
it.
up on my Wisconsin high school programs.
You should be. He played for the University of Wisconsin Whitewater as a player.
Of course. Who doesn't know that? Come on.
Do you know
Oh,
where would you get if you had to guess? Would you guess Whitewater is in the northern part of Wisconsin, southern part of Wisconsin, and I'll give you and for bonus question, is it close to one of the Great Lakes?
well, based on how you asked the question, I'm going to have to say it's probably in the South and no.
You're south
Us.
and not that far. It's not that
Okay.
close. It's maybe two counties over from Lake Michigan. but yeah, it's closer. It's yeah, it's um closer to Chicago. It's close, not that far from Milwaukee. It's like it
Ah,
looks like it's kind of due um west from Milwaukee.
if you just asked the question without the qualifiers, I would have said the opposite.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I wasn't. Yeah, I would have guessed Whitewater was somewhere.
Pretty north. Yeah.
It's actually a little bit. Yeah, yeah, south. It's Madison. It's like between Madison and Milwaukee, but a little bit south of both cities.
Hmm.
Whitewater. Yeah,
Didn't know that.
you did. No, well, now you do. And anyway, should we talk about our bets that we made for the divisional round before we move on to talk? Since we kind of got into the world of college athletics, we'll go to talk about the final four of the college football playoff. But first, we'll talk about our bets. We were actually very comparable in our bets this week. Um,
We did not differ at all on our money line picks. Full agreement on the money line all the way down, which is a little surprising.
Yeah, we each picked Houston. We in the Houston Chargers game, we each picked the Chargers, so we missed that one. And we also picked Tampa to beat Washington. We missed that one, but we got the other four correct. We got
Yeah.
and three of those were big favorites. One of them was the Rams' sort of minor upset of the Vikings that we both predicted. So we got 4 out of 6 on the money line. Uh, however, that would actually cause us to lose about $14 each on the money line, given
Yes.
the we didn't win money on the money line, even though we were two-thirds correct. We lost a little bit of
Right.
money. And then we were basically opposite. You got 5 out of 6 spreads. I got 5 out of 6 over-unders because I picked under for every game. The only game that went over was the Chargers Houston game, which was a 42 and a half over under. It actually only got 44, so it was very close. If a blocked extra point had not been returned for 2 point conversion,
Yes.
we would have won that one. But
That's right. So we have
I
to
would have
blame that one play.
6 for 6. Yes.
Yeah. Ah,
I needed the block, but I also didn't want the return for
right.
the points. So
I mean, the block is far more likely than the return, but
yeah.
and somehow you got both
Yes.
just to stifle your perfect over
Over
under
under.
week.
Yes. Yeah.
But this is
And
one of those examples where your blanket under strategy worked brilliantly,
yeah, I it finally
and now
caught up to
you're
me
justified to use it
going
uh,
forward. I'm going to use
henceforth. Is that what you would say?
henceforth I will use. Yeah. Yeah. You can say henceforth if you'd like from now on. Henceforth.
Seems like something you would say, honestly, but
Well, I guess I've been using it already, so I wouldn't say henceforth because I think of henceforth as being starting from now, I will from here hence. I guess it would be
yeah,
more of a thenceforth already for me.
hence heretofore.
I think it's a thenceforth from early this season because it's from that time on
Yes, onward.
thenceforth. But I would have to go back to from week 3 thenceforth, I have basically gone blanket under.
Yes, but I'm just saying that now that this has happened, now you are justified.
Henceforth, I will continue my thenceforth uh,
Yes,
words. Um, yeah, my thenceforth strategy. But
there you
so
go.
will you join the blanket under revolution henceforth?
I think it would work if it was more of a regular season type game. Then we're down to only 4 games. I don't really want to do that. And these is before we get into our picks for next week though. But we do have two very low over under numbers and two very high over under numbers. I think in this coming week. Is that right?
Yes, or two in the 40s,
So
two in the 50s at least. Yeah,
yeah,
I think the over number is pretty low. Um, 41 and a half or something like that. So,
Yeah.
but so in the
I
over
don't
under,
think I'll be going blanket on this one, but I think
yeah.
I will continue to hunt and peck and do poorly. That's my strategy. I'm sticking to it, Mike.
So we like you said, I got 5 out of 6 over unders. You got 2 out of 6 over unders, but we were mirrored on the spreads. I only got 2 out of 6 spreads correct. You had 5 out of 6 spreads correct. Um, you only missed we again the your lone miss was the Houston Chargers game. We were both way off on that, so we needed that as a warm up, I guess, before we got to our later uh, later games bets. So,
Yeah,
what
we
was your
both missed all of the points on that one game. So really, it was that game really hurt us. We still ended up in the green though for this, or in the black if you want to use accounting terms
yeah? I won
for the week.
$109. You won $109.38. You won $107.36. I was $2.02 ahead based on my over unders. I guess they're slightly different juice odds than the spread was, but essentially we did identically. We were identical. We each got 11 out of 18 picks and
Yes,
won a little bit of money. Um,
which I think means on this, it's just we were tied this week again. That means we're still only one pick off from each other for the entirety of the season.
yes,
464 correct picks for me to 463 correct picks for you on the season.
yes.
But you do have like an $800 lead.
I am. But when we talk
Right.
about college football, you are in the lead because you've been really getting these uh, matchups correct in the college football playoffs. I believe you are 9-1 now in the 10 games that we've had.
That's right.
Predicted both of these games. The Notre Dame close fought victory over Penn State, 27-24. You predicted. I went with Penn State, so I had been going against Penn State, and Penn State had been winning, so maybe I should have gone against Penn State, and Penn State would have won that game. Since if I follow my magical thinking there, but we each also picked Ohio State to win against Notre Dame and win against Texas with a 5.5 point favorites. What was the spread against Texas?
5.5. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Notre Dame was as a 1.5 point favorite against Penn State, I think. So you picked both of
Yeah,
those,
one and a half.
correct?
Yeah.
I was 1 for 2, but I still have Ohio State as my futures pick that's remained in play. Um,
Yeah.
any you want to talk about either of these games? Notre Dame Penn State was very close. Penn State made a Drew
Oh,
Aller made a boneheaded sort of interception at the end
yeah.
of costing them, and Notre Dame kicked a
Terrible
field goal.
decision.
Time expired. Essentially, they had like 5 seconds left or something. But um,
Yeah. You were watching that game, weren't you? I
I
think because
watched most of
we
that
were
game.
texting a little bit. Yeah.
Penn State played better. I thought Penn State was the better team, but Notre Dame kept it close and
Yeah.
uh, able to capitalize off of the Penn State mistakes at
That
the end.
mistake. Yeah. There was some weird officiating in that last like 2 minutes or so. They like kept adding time to the clock. Like every time the play would stop,
Yes.
they'd end up adding like 2, 3, 4 seconds. It was ended up being like close to a minute, I think, that was added in time.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like
But
maybe
I don't
the
think it actually affected the game because Notre Dame ended up like running plays they didn't really need or want to run just to get the
yeah,
ball where they wanted it in the field to set up the field goal to win it, which I guess they had been very bad at kicking field goals during the season because their kicker had been injured,
yeah,
but managed to find the range for the winning kick. So yeah, I don't think it ended up mattering, but it did. It was a little maddening watching that because the clock barely moved for like a series, several plays in a row because they keep adding time back on. It was very odd to watch, though.
yeah, yeah. It looked like maybe the other game, Texas and Ohio State, was going to come down very close as well. Texas actually had the ball first and goal inside the Ohio State 5, I think, at one point, and Ohio State ended up pushing Texas back and then sacking Quinn Ewers and recovering a fumble and returning it for a touchdown to win that game. It looked like it was a fairly handy victory, but it was actually closer than it should have been, maybe. But Ohio State won that game um, by was it
28-14.
14 by 14
Yeah.
points. So they covered
Two
the
touchdowns
spread.
in the fourth quarter too. So that was it was a tie game going into the fourth, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. So Ohio State is favored going into the national championship game against Notre Dame by 8.5 points, the same spread that the Chiefs are favored over the Texans. By the way, do you think the Chiefs Texans game will be closer, or the Ohio State Notre Dame game will be closer? That game comes up on Monday night, so right before the night before our next airing of the Warning Track, our next recording of the Warning Track Power Hour.
Yeah. Right now, I'd probably expect the Chiefs game to be closer. I'm not sure that Notre Dame can really throw the ball. So I don't I think it will be hard for them to score a lot of points. I think it's where I am right now in my thinking on the national championship game. Uh, that's where I think it's going to come down to. Is that I just don't think Notre Dame can throw. Well, so
Yeah, I tend
no,
to
because
think
that
the
would
same.
yeah.
Although at least I tend to think I'm more confident that Ohio State will cover the spread than I am the Chiefs will cover the spread. But I'm going to pick both of those teams to cover. Uh, so preview my Chiefs pick in the coming this for next week. But I think that's more because I'm a homer. I guess I've become an Ohio State homer since I've predicted them to be the national champion. So right now, I believe I am 4-6 of my 10 picks, so I'm $200 down. So if I get Ohio State to cover and win, I could be up $600. I could be up $400, which still would not catch me up to you, even if you missed the Ohio State Notre Dame game. So you have won the contest for college football. Congratulations, Andrew. We'll congratulate you again next week when your victory is completed. But
And official in the books.
in the
Yes.
books. Um, what was your strategy in these games? Was it simply to pick the favorites, and that usually, I think that's worked for most all of the games, if not all the games.
Just a few that haven't been. Yeah, I think one upset maybe along the way that I took, and
You
well, yeah,
predicted
because I had Arizona State to cover.
you predicted Georgia to win the
And that was incorrect. Yeah, so Notre Dame against Georgia uh was the underdog, and yeah, the only other underdog that covered anyway was Arizona State against Texas.
and you picked that one, correct?
That and I did pick that one. Yeah, so there were only two upsets. I got one of the two, but so largely it was betting on the favorites, especially the home favorites. And then the other thing was betting on your alma mater until you did, and then I got
Uh,
off of them, and so that I mean that right there was three. It was a three-game swing because I think I had Penn State in the first two rounds, uh,
yes.
and then you didn't jump on your own alma mater's bandwagon until it was time to leave, I guess.
Yeah, they still should have won that game. They were better
They
than Notre Dame.
they should have won that game.
Yeah, I
At
don't
least
know.
gone to overtime, and
Yes.
they would have been in good position to win there too. So
Yeah. It's
that was really unfortunate, and that's one of those things. It's like it's going to be, remembered for being a dumb play
yeah.
by Penn State fans and Notre Dame fans for a long, long time. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's unfortunate.
Definitely. So we'll see what happens with the college football championship game, or the first championship game from the 12 team playoff. But we have the NFL divisional round coming up next week. We've already
Maybe
talked.
just real quickly though, you are taking Ohio State to win
I'm going to take Ohio State to win and cover.
and
Yeah.
cover. Okay, yeah, I think I'm going to join you there. I don't
Okay.
foresee Notre Dame's ability to throw, so I think Notre Dame's more likely to cover that.
Okay.
The Notre
So
Dame is too.
we're in agreement on that. We'll see if that happens. 8.5 point favorites, Ohio State.
Yeah.
Um, which is, like I said, 8.5 point favorites. The Chiefs are favored in the first of the divisional games. We have some fairly big spreads in the divisional round as well. Um, we have 4 games coming up. The AFC plays first on Saturday, last on Sunday, and the NFC games are sandwiched in between. So the AFC one and NFC one seeds both play on Saturday. It seems like that's been happening more the last several years, and the 2-3 games or the I guess it's one versus 6 in the NFC and two
Yes.
four uh in the NFC, and it's this chalk 1-4-2-3 matchups in the AFC. Um
Yes.
so uh we have, like I said, we have some big spreads. The Chiefs are favored by 8. All home spreads are favored. Chiefs big home spread over the Texans 8.5. Detroit's favored over Washington by 9.5. Philadelphia is favored over the Rams by 6.5. But then when we get to the Baltimore Buffalo game, things change, and it seems like in Buffalo is slight home underdogs right now. They're 1.5 plus 1.5. Um, so do you have any, are you leaning any way in any of these games?
Ugh, man, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a pretty crazy weekend, but I think some of these games are actually gonna be fairly close. Like I kind of think the Chiefs Texans game will actually be close. I think the Chiefs will win, but I think they've been playing close games all season until the end of the year. Houston seems maybe picking it up in the playoffs, so I think it's probably gonna be close. I think I'm taking the over in this one though, which I think you're going to be taking the under, as that's your blanket strategy for quite some
Yeah,
while.
I'm
Uh,
gonna just simply because it's been my method, but this is a low over under. I think that's a little low. I think I would, if I weren't playing my method, I would go over on that one.
yeah,
Um, I'm gonna still play
it's
the
only
whole.
41 and a half right now.
Yeah, that seems a little low to me. I think the Chiefs will score, although maybe it'll be a 38-3 game. The Chiefs will win easily and keep it under by half point. That would be my uh I guess a 41-0 victory would be my favorite victory. Uh,
Yeah, but you'd
but
you'd accept a 38-3 is what you're saying.
I accept the 3 as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
but not a 40. You want a 41-0, not a you want like a Butker missed extra point or something, just to
I
but not
yeah,
but not returns.
no, not return. I'd rather have 5 touchdowns and 3 safeties would be my ideal.
You better have that multiple safety prop though if you're putting that in there.
No, yeah, I don't I don't think that's gonna happen. But yeah, so that
Oh
would
my
so yeah, you think some of those games are gonna be close? Which do you think any of these games will be upsets? I guess the Baltimore Buffalo game, if Buffalo wins, that would be seen as a minor upset, 1.5 point underdogs at home.
yeah.
Um, you,
Oh
do
yeah.
you have
What is the weather expected to be for that one? I haven't looked at that. Have you
no?
already thought about that, or is that
Um,
affecting your picks? Are you looking at weather reports for all these games?
it's supposed to be cold. That's all I know.
Ooh, 16 degrees, but no precipitation expected as of now.
Baltimore's a running team, and Baltimore's a fairly cold weather city
Yeah.
compared to some. Um, it's not maybe it's not as cold as Buffalo for sure, but um, they're also a running team, Baltimore, and that tends to be good in cold weather. So I don't know if the weather is going to be a big issue. So,
Yeah.
but if I had to lean one way or the other, and Buffalo was really handled by Baltimore in the first game of the season, the first game meeting of the season. These two teams, that was 35-10, uh, Baltimore. So. But I'm leaning Buffalo since it's a home game, but I don't know. I think partly because I'd at least get the 1 point that way. So if Buffalo lost by one, I would still get it. So maybe that's
Yes.
a toss-up game. So maybe I'm just going with Buffalo on the points. Um, but yeah, that's anybody's game. I don't know. I could also see that game being a blowout, but I could see it being a blowout either way too. That game I think yeah, I could that's very unpredictable, I think that game. Um
And that's
I
that's been sort of when those games are. I don't really know what's going to happen in them. That's when I've been tending to hedge on some of these, like pick the underdog on the spread, but take the favorite on the money line, just to make sure I get one of the two right. I mean, there are scenarios where you can lose both, but that's less likely to happen anyway. So uh, I have done that recently, and it actually worked this last week because I had Washington on the spread last week, and then but still, went with the home favorite on the money line, and ended up basically tying you anyway because of that kind of pick. So it is a strategy that works in scenarios where you don't really have a good guess as to a good feel as to what the game's going to go. So for our purposes, that makes sense. If you're actually making the bets in real life, it's probably not a great idea though.
yeah. Um Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess not. Unless you have a lot of money, you got a really good odds at one point, and then you're hedging it just to make sure you do make money later. Like you had a futures bet on, like if you had a big futures bet on Buffalo to win the Super Bowl, but then you want to hedge it by picking Baltimore to win this game,
Sure.
uh, that might be something to do. Um,
Yeah.
come out on top. But yeah, how about the NFC? Washington, Detroit. And then the Rams, Eagles. We have I don't know. Do you see the favorites going through? Do you see any upset possibilities?
Well, there's always possibilities, but I'm leaning towards the favorites on both of these. Maybe not necessarily on the money line, but or on the spreads. Washington's been playing pretty close games, so I really hope that they can keep this game close against Detroit. And like you mentioned, it's indoors. Both teams kind of like to score a lot of points too, so it should be a pretty exciting game. And I really hope Washington can at least keep it competitive. Anyway, that's so I'm expecting them to try to to be able to cover the spread. But I don't really expect them to win.
Yeah, I don't know which way. I guess since they're big spreads, I would lean underdog on those two games.
Yeah, that has
If
been your historical strategy, at least
if I
through
had to
the
pick
course
a
of the
team
season.
to, yeah, if I had to pick a team to win outright, I'd pick the Rams as the underdog to win outright because I think they have playoff experience, and I think and it still seems like the Eagles are this close to imploding all the time,
Yeah.
and I could see that happening. I don't. I think Stafford is superior quarterback to Hurts, at least right now, in term, passing offense. I think Kyron Williams is a really good running back. He's not quite Saquon Barkley this year, but he's still very good.
Yeah.
And both defenses are pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I could see the Rams, but again, it's going to be cold probably in Philly. The Rams are a warm weather team. Stafford, I don't know how much he's done in cold weather games. He didn't have much playoff success with Detroit. I think when the Rams won the Super Bowl went through Los Angeles. I don't know if I don't know if it went through Los Angeles, but Los Angeles played in. I guess they did play in Green Bay maybe
Hmm.
that year. Um,
I'm not
uh,
sure.
let me look up the 2021. Uh,
Philly weather for the game though is expected to be nearly 40 degrees game time.
hmm. Okay, that's pretty warm.
Yeah.
So the Rams,
So
okay, the Rams won their Super Bowl. They played the wild card game. They're the fourth seed that year. They played the wild card game against Arizona at home. They won at SoFi. Then they went to Tampa. I remember that. They won against Tom Brady uh, and in Tampa. And then they won the NFC Championship game back at SoFi against the 49ers, who were the sixth seed. And then they won the Super Bowl, which was also played at SoFi Stadium. So they
Oh,
won at Stadium. Um,
the
so
only
that
warm weather cities.
they only played warm weather.
Yeah.
But if it's going to be 40, that's not so bad. But if it was below that, so yeah,
Yeah, that doesn't
maybe
really qualify as like a winter game, right?
yeah, they didn't play any winter games against. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was um, yeah.
So
So
are you not concerned about this about the Rams then? So it goes back, does it go back to a pick 'em for you then, or is it
I don't know. I'll think
are you
about
just
it. Yeah,
betting on the chance that Philly does implode?
I'm still kind of going with that. That's my um
So maybe another hedge option is what you're saying.
it may be one of those. Yeah, I don't know. I might go all in with the Ram. Either I'll go all in with the Rams, or I'll say Rams keep it close, but Philly wins. Um,
Yeah,
but I haven't quite decided yet.
thread the
That's that's
needle.
that's the upset that I would see. Other than I guess I think I'd pick Buffalo, but that's it's minor upset, but it's basically pick 'em game. So.
Yeah,
Um, I guess both of those are the Sunday games. They can go either way. So yeah, we'll see what happens this weekend. Do we have any other things we want to talk about, or should we wrap up this week's Morning Trick Power Hour?
well, what are the expectations for the Chiefs then? Are we what who's playing for the team? Is it I mean Mahomes is supposed to be healthy in
Yeah,
theory,
I guess we
right?
don't know if Tooney and Caliendo are going to play on the guard tackle, or it's going to be Humphreys and Tooney and the tackle guard.
Yeah,
But
Chris
and
Jones is expected to be back.
everybody's supposed to be healthy right now on the 53
Yeah,
man. I don't know if Jalen Watson will play or not. He's the one recovering from his ankle break that he had, I think, against maybe the 49ers, I think back in week 7 or something like that. So
yeah,
I think the Chiefs are the healthiest they've been all season, which is helpful for but again, they've had a 3-week layoff essentially, most of the
right.
starters.
The stars anyway, right?
So hopefully they come out ready to play and not rusty. But I think they will come out strong. They're coming off a big Andy Reid coming off a bye is also very good. Uh, is a very good record coming off a bye, so he's well prepared. The
Right.
Chiefs are well prepared, I think.
Yeah.
So you would think that even with the Chiefs get down like they did against the Texans a few years ago, they were down 24 to nothing. They still came back and won that game. So I don't know if the Chiefs have quite the big play potency of the team of 5 years ago now, but they're still pretty good.
So
So
yeah. You think we'll see one long play? Are they finally going to connect downfield uh, with Xavier Worthy, say, during the course of the game?
it's possible. I think they're using Xavier Worthy more like they used Rashee Rice last year in those short runs, and then maybe the
Yeah,
long. It's been like Justin Watson occasionally, or maybe Hollywood Brown, maybe. I don't know.
yeah.
I just would like a game kind of like the Steelers game where the Chiefs win are ahead and they win easily, and I don't have to have a heart attack during the game watching it. So I just want a comfortable Chiefs victory.
Sounds great. Let's do that.
Let's do that. So here's rooting for a comfortable Chiefs win Next week. We'll see what happens next week though in the Morning Trek Power Hour. We'll review these divisional matchups. We'll see. We'll have our final four set in the NFL next time. We will also have a national champion crowned in college football next time. We may also have some baseball news or some other sports news to debate, report. We also maybe have some coaching decisions being made as time goes on in the NFL as well. So we'll see what all those things have to, what all those things look like when we get to them next week. But this weekend, we hope that the Chiefs come out on top, and then our bets turn out to be good ones. Um, so as always, here at the One Trick Power Hour, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the One Trick Power Hour. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast, which is available on many different podcast delivery platforms. And we wish you luck this weekend in making your bets, as long as your interests do not conflict with ours. And as always, here at the One Track Power, we will wish you a good day. The end. Okay.
And then pop that poncho, Mike.
He's Pancho, my Mexican, my unlicensed Mexican poncho. You can put that on the you can edit it and put that on the
Oh, it's all of this is going in. It's going to go, and it'll stop like right here.